Hello again, this is Camilo Castaño, student at UNAT English 5. Now, in this opportunity, I'm going to talk to you about some grammar aspects. Most importantly, complex sentences, passive voice, and modal verbs. These three structures are really important for B1 English and B2, but they are in the middle. Some of them are found in B1 and some of them are found in B2. So there can be a mix here to relax the hardness of the topic, but they are not difficult. First, we need to understand that complex sentences are a joint of two sentences, of two clauses, one independent and another independent, that are put together, but some adverbial clauses, such as because, yet, since, although, and some other adverbial clauses that you can use to put together two clauses. And you are going to get with that they do not sound independently. For example, Laura put on her coat and went to the party and is helping here. But also, she was not invited. So you can say Laura put on her coat and went to the party. She was not invited. But that doesn't sound well. It doesn't sound well. We need something to help us here to make it sound better. So we say, Laura put on her coat and went to the party despite she wasn't invited or she was not invited. That is a proper example of a complex sentence. Now, when we are talking about passive voices, we need to remember that a passive voice is used when we want to focus on the object or the subject that receives the action without having the need of mentioning the actual performer of the action. And that is because the agent that performs the action might be unknown, or we do not want to be repeating. And also, it is important to understand that if you want to mention the agent, you need to use the preposition by. And also, moreover, it is important to remember that we use in the structure be plus the past participle of the verb. And I'm going to give you an example here. A new president is expected to be elected next year. So the object of the action is a new president, a new president. Who? We don't know. That's why it says it is unknown. It is unknown because we do not really know who that person is going to be next president. We're just saying is expected to be selected next year. Now, if we move to modal verbs, we have several: can, could, may, could, might, ought to, should, must, have to, will, had better. There are several that we need to understand. And some of them are used to talk about general ability like can. For example, working as a CEO means you can afford lots of fancy things because you earn too much money. Some of them are used to talk about possibility, may, could, might. Up to 30 students might graduate this year. Up to 30 students might graduate this year. You can use other model verbs to talk about recommendation. For example, teachers ought to encourage the students to become better versions of themselves every day. You should see the doctor because of that eye. And if you want to talk about proper obligation, you can use must or have to. For example, you must finish your report right now. Now, as an extra, let's talk about code switching. This is a particular phenomenon. It is both useful and useless. It is both advantage and disadvantage. When it is an advantage, well, teachers tend to use it when they are, let's talk about English. Teachers say it has its advantages when you are explaining your lesson in English or giving instructions, directions, and your student who speaks, for example, Spanish is not understanding you. So you go back, you code switch to Spanish to make it clearer, to repeat your explanation or your instruction, but in Spanish for them to understand. But when it becomes a disadvantage, remember that the most important skill to develop in English is the ability to think in English. And if you are continuously code switching from English to Spanish, it's going to be difficult for your students to develop the thinking ability. So they are going to be forced to spend their time translating into English, into Spanish. So it's going to be more difficult to them to understand or comprehend ideas, get the point when people are speaking and where they are listening to posts, videos, conversations, TV shows in English. So I think that code switching should not be used. Instead, try to execute a or run a better English methodology, a more proper natural approach and communicative approach where you guarantee your students that they are going to be surrounded by a full English environment. Thank you so much.